Hello, everyone. Welcome to this interview one more time. We are at the One Paris Summit meeting in Gabon, Libreville. This interview is about credit carbon market. Our guest is Mrs. Margaret Kiem, CEO of NGO Gold Standard. Hello, madam.
Thank you for having me here.
All right, it's a pleasure, right? So, we're going to talk about, credit carbon market because the viewers really wish to know what it's all about, right?
Yes.
So, I hope you're enjoying being in Gabon.
Well, first of all, thank you for the great hospitality. It's been wonderful few days. Yes.
All right. Pretty good. Maybe let's a little bit talk about your NGO. What is it really about?
So Gold Standard is a 20-year-old. So this year is our 20th year anniversary. We're a global impact standard. So we assess impact, including climate, sustainable development impact in carbon markets, in different financial instruments, and in corporate investments.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. So African NGOs had better be in touch with you.
Great.
To find out ways how to,
Yes.
all right. That's a good news. So what is the story about credit carbon markets and when does the story at global level date back?
It dates back to 1997 when I think around 180 countries decided to sign under the Kyoto Protocol, creating this global level carbon market. So carbon trading started then. And there's different levels of carbon markets as it emerged in the last 20 years. So there's the government-to-government agreements, which is now discussed under the Article 6 of the Paris Agreement.
Okay.
And there's also the different compliance markets. The aviation industry got together and created a carbon market for their industry purposes. Or there's domestic markets where governments are creating that emissions trading system. And also there's the voluntary carbon market, which is mostly demand-driven, supply-driven, sort of voluntary action by the private sector.
Okay.
So Gold Standard assesses and issues credits under many of those mechanisms.
Pretty interesting.
Yes.
All right, that's great. Well, let's say, what about the? Because you actually dealt with 3 levels. You said, if I can remember very well. But what about the community level? How can community feel concerned about that?
So the 3 levels I discussed is at where the market is.
Okay.
Community level NGOs and project developers can access all of those markets because those projects probably qualified to access those markets. So for example, in the voluntary carbon market, there's community level services like clean cooking, clean water access, improving livelihoods. So all these projects can actually go through Gold Standard or other standards or other mechanisms to access carbon finance and produce co-benefits alongside.
So if I understand very well from what you're saying, this means at community level, Gabon, for instance, civil society can also feel concerned. Like somebody can stand up and create its own NGO, which is related to carbon credit issues.
Yes.
How will it work?
So I will be honest.
Oh, right.
Creating a carbon credit is an onerous process.
Okay.
It requires certain skill sets, certain capacity, and also knowledge to how to navigate the very complex market that you alluded to.
Imagine.
So I think it's important that those capacities are built within the local community level, that those capacities are built by local authority level, so that Gabon can truly create their own projects and access the market that's available.
Oh, that's very interesting. So this means maybe the government can maybe set up a kind of popular, I would even say education, education program to better teach the community how they can, access this kind of market, and may even have more information about what credit carbon, market is all about. Is it win-win?
Yes, I think that would be wonderful.
Okay.
But of course, it's not just the role of the government, but also many of the international organizations and
Correct.
NGOs that are placed in Gabon can support, because this is a very important topic that
Alright.
that global leaders are discussing and many organizations are discussing.
Wonderful. Let's talk a little bit about the benefits which Gabon can have. And my question is, how can Gabon, how can it work for Gabon? Both at governmental level and at community level, definitely.
So at a government level, there's many opportunities for Gabon to access the Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, which is the global trading mechanism, globally set up market mechanism. And also there's Article 5, which talks about avoided deforestation. So there's different mechanisms set up under the Paris Agreement that Gabon government can tap into. Also, community level, I think there's a lot of great project opportunities in Gabon that can tap into either the voluntary carbon market or the compliance markets that are out there. But of course, in order to access that, you need to develop capacity to build those projects, complying to the different rules and requirements set by standards or different mechanisms like ours. And you need to be able to navigate the demand side of the market. So who's buying, who's trading, where's the best way to put it, because the price is important, and that's a challenge and an opportunity for Gabon going forward.
So briefly put, all this, legally speaking, turns around the Paris Agreement, definitely. The populations had better, let's say, be informed of what the Paris Agreement is all about, right? To better understand.
Of course, it's a climate commitment by 198, I think, countries. Right. So I think it's important that we as citizens understand what our government is committing to and how that's contributing to the world's efforts in combating climate change.
Great. Well, we're moving toward the end of this interview, right? And I hope everything is right. Okay, pretty good. So when can Gabon enter, into the business carbon market selling? Based on the current situation and the efforts that the country has been doing so far.
So there are different levels of entry to the market. I think government has a role to play where their sort of carbon assets can be traded at an international level. And also there's, as you highlighted, the need for community level projects to enter into the market. I think we shouldn't conflate the difference between how carbon projects are produced and which market it's used for, because that's important to know. For example, Gabon's tireless efforts on sort of the avoided deforestation projects, the REDD Plus programs. The Minister White expressed concerns around not being able to find a buyer and therefore seeking access to the voluntary carbon market, which is a different mechanism that was set up. So I think the market players are really trying to find how to harmonize different markets so there's fungibility around different carbon assets that governments are creating and therefore the community is creating. So we're very keen to continue the discussion at One Forest Summit, and hopefully we find ways forward and solutions forward where all of us can work together.
Hopefully you do find it, definitely.
Hopefully,
because the viewers are kind of, you guys have been that much talking about this credit carbon business, so when are we going to see the first results? And then talking about the results, the question is, in terms of results, based on the effort, one more time, and the discussions from this One Forest Summit, what are going to be the very short-term results, and why not also long-term ones?
So I think short-term results, it's too early for me to say.
Okay.
We'll have to see how the summit goes.
Okay.
But I think we've come together to agree that we need to explore the current mechanism and potential mechanism that can support the ambition of conserving the forest and conserving the biodiversity.
Sure.
I think we all agree on that. And we acknowledge the progress we've made. Many different organizations and governments that made the progress, but that's not enough to address the urgency. I mean, according to the report, we need $700 billion annually to close the biodiversity gap.
My God.
So it has to come from every sources of finance. So I think it's important that Gabon and the countries need to think about which finance resource do we need to access, because every resource requires capacity.
Sure.
So what's the best way to access? I think that's going to be a very, very key capacity and a question that government has to answer and work with local NGOs like yourself to build sustainable, impactful projects on the ground.
That's just great. What's the best way? And I think that's the reason why Gabon has been organizing the summits, to find out ways and to gain from the experience of other countries. And as we've come to the end of this interview, you have a last word, please.
I hope to return to Gabon, hopefully with a project. I think it's really important for us to understand that nature is home to people. So it's not about just carbon credits, but really how do we preserve nature and how do we incentivize the people who are living in that space, that their livelihoods are improved, they're continue to having healthy access to water, food. So I think it's a much more holistic discussion than just carbon credit. So I think going forward, hopefully at the One Forest Summit, we can come out with solutions that we can look forward to and work towards.
Oh wow, that's just great. I would have forgotten a question. Your experience during this summit. How you find it? Have you done or made some encounters, some meetings? Have you encountered people you have the same challenge with?
Yes, everyone. I think everyone around the table. So I was part of the first two panels yesterday. I think everyone on this stage have gone through years of challenges and opportunities and trying to work this topic for the people and as the guardians of nature. But I think it's a complex system. As I said, it involves government, it involves private sector, it involves NGOs and local communities.
Sure.
How do we bring them together? And what system can we work that can work for all of us? I think that's a systemic challenge that this topic faces. But I am very hopeful, or cautiously hopeful, that we're going to get to solutions.
We're going to get to solutions, and that's going to be the last word. We just thank you, Mrs. Margaret Kim, right?
Yes.
CEO of NGO Gold Standard, right?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that the viewers will appreciate being in touch with you through Gabon 24 so that they can better learn from you. This was the interview, and today's topic was all about, credit carbon market, how it works, and we have tried to give you some piece of, information about that. Thank you. See you next time. Goodbye.